heads, department heads could come talk to you about all those items I put.
Mhm.
I took them right out of the facilities management plan. And I talked to the department heads about all these. So if you want to meet to discuss each of those project departments,
No, what I'm wondering
but those
is
are all,
if this
key
is a full comprehensive list of what's being requested for capital needs in the coming fiscal year, or are there others that need to be solicited?
no, those are, in my mind, the priority issues to fix our buildings because the buildings haven't been fixed for years. There could be things like trucks or equipment that could be in your capital plan that I'm not making a priority for the bond package, but as we get free cash, we should deal with those issues. But this is really, in my strategy of doing this, we need to fix the goddamn buildings. We can't let them deteriorate anymore. And
Yeah,
that's the priority, but there's other things in your capital plan that are small enough that can be done with free cash. These are generally big items. Let's say, do you want to consider the salt shed at 18 grand? That could probably be done with free cash. Even the HVAC that in public works, that could probably be done with free cash. So those couple of smaller things could probably be done with free cash. Now, if I was doing the Rutland Library, the design work is part of this, the site facade and everything, I would kind of include that because it's all part of the package, you know what I mean? But no, I mean, there's other capital things. If you went through the 5-year capital plan, you will see other things that probably departments requested that are not part of the bond package. And I'm going to tackle those and smaller items as free cash. We get free cash. We could do that, or hopefully we do that. Now that, Joe, that's why it's so important to stop using free cash to balance the goddamn budget.
oh, I'm
So that we
100%
can
on board
use,
there, yeah.
so that we can use that free cash
Yeah.
revenue to do these capital items and give you guys money to spend
Yeah.
versus them using it to balance the budget. So that's why my goal this year was to keep the free cash at $100,000 to balance the budget, and I was at 125. And I'm still working with the finance board to lower that. If we find some extra money, that's what I want to do first,
Mhm.
is do that. Now, last year, we used $405,000 of free cash to balance the budget. Me and you could have a side discussion about that, but $405,000 of free cash was used, and that was a big problem, because that's one-time revenue to balance. That was a big mistake, and then now I've got it down to 100, so we're making a big improvement, but we should get to zero, in my opinion. We should get to where we're funding all of our operating budget with continuous revenue, not one-time revenue.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out our approach, because we're a little bit behind the 8 ball this year, admittedly, in our normal process. And I want to make sure that we have everything in front of us that department heads are asking for. So I guess if I'm hearing you, normally we would go out to department heads, solicit the needs.
And that's
But
in the 5-year capital.
Well,
plan.
that's what I'm hearing.
And if they don't, if the department heads didn't update the capital plan, like some departments give you new ones this year.
Mhm.
The fire in particular, if they give you new ones and they didn't change anything in that year, then that's their own problem, because they should have updated, if they wanted to make
But
it.
what I'm trying to understand is if we go down this 5-year capital plan, obviously, we couldn't do every priority 1 item on the list.
Right.
So are we only considering the priority 1 items? That's my question.
You guys, I guess I would say this, as you go through, like, these are the facility needs, but if you wanted to add, if there were some other larger capital items that you wanted to add to the bond package, and you think you could still keep the bond package a reasonable level, you can add it. That's up to you. So if you found just to throw an example out, right? At some point, the fire department thinks they need a new ladder, that's $1 million purchase, but if that was in this year in your 5-year capital plan, consider if you want to put that in the bond package or not. You probably make it harder to pass the bond package, but you consider that as part of the bond package, if you felt that was something that was important.
And
But I don't know what's in that this year's, if you look at, because we already went through last year. Now, we didn't fix all those things in last year. We didn't do all the things in the first year. So all the things that were in the first year that we did, you should take out. And then all the things that were in the first year that we didn't do should probably move into the second year. You know what I mean? The next year, that's what we would do.
Ron, I'm a little confused. There's this line on the rescue funds that you can and can't spend it on certain things. Water and sewer are included. You can relay water lines and sewer lines. How about some of those repairs that we talked about for the pumping station and the treatment plant?
That can be done through that.
They can be done through that because
The secondary water source can be done through that.
Yeah, because we voted on some of the free cash to fund some of that stuff. Couldn't that come out of the American Rescue Funds instead, freeing up more free cash? Yeah, but this was,
It's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head to answer that question.
yeah,
We already voted it. We already had the people pass it through the town meeting.
right.
So it's already allocated from that free cash. I don't think it matters because if we use free cash for that and free cash, then we're just use the free cash to do some other sewer project anyway. So it kind of, in
Right.
some ways, it doesn't matter. 'Cause we're still gonna.
Could it be used to resurface roads? Maybe not parking lots, but
Okay,
roads.
so this is the discussion I just had in the finance committee, with the finance
Okay.
committee, right? So nationwide, I was gonna say statewide, but nationwide. There's never been enough money to deal with the issue of roads, to fix and maintain
Right.
roads to where they should be.
Bridges and whatnot.
You'll
Yeah.
see it in Massachusetts, in almost every town in the state, that the roads stink. Exceptions to that might be a town like Sturbridge, who gets a shitload of money from tourism. They have to keep their roads nice. If they don't, they won't be the tourists, right? So they
Right.
invest local tax dollars into roads. Most towns, a lot of towns don't invest any local dollars. They rely on just chapter 90 money, which is a state fund, right?
I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
So one of the finance board members saying, well, why don't we put some roads into those in a bonding package? And I said, I don't think so. I don't think it's a good idea because right now, if you remember, Biden and the Congress passed a federal program for infrastructure.
Mhm.
We don't know what that's going to look like at a local level. We know we have major problems with fixing this bond package. We're already talking between $2 and $3 million. You don't want to raise so high, people won't vote for it, right?
Right.
So I said, let's wait and see how that federal infrastructure bill is going to come down to the state and local, what that's going to do for our roads to help improve the roads that way. So that's why I think it's a mistake to do it there, but in theory, there are some towns that will use bond funds to fix some roads. I just think we should wait until after we see what happens with the federal dollars. And
Okay.
frankly, we got enough big problems to worry about.
Right.
These
Yeah.
things to deal with it right now, but it is something that in the future we might consider. But in order to put the roads into that, the payment management plan I gave you, I don't know the numbers, but I bet you it's well over $10 million.
Yeah.
If you were
but
gonna bring the
that's-
roads up to just level, like where they're decent, it would probably well over $10 million, 20 million or whatever it is.
Over the next 5 years or something. Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah. I did see all of
you know,
that.
even if you
Yeah.
borrow $3 million for roads, you only got to do so many roads. And I just don't think that right now was the time to make that decision, but it's
Okay.
something we have to think about long term. So I'll give you an example of what I did in Southbridge. We, like Rutland, didn't use any local funds for town roads. So every year, for the 3 of the years that I started it, I put $100,000 of taxpayer money. I increased the DPW budget by 100 grand for roads and added local money to now I had $500,000 in chapter 90 money. The first year I had another 100, so now we had 600,000 each year we spent on road. And I was doing 100,000 every year for 5 years. So my plan was that way at the end of 5 years, we'd be spending $1 million on road. Half chapter 90 money, half town money, right?
Yeah.
When I left, the new manager came up with another path. What he did is he took the 300 grand that I had already got up to, and he decided to use that for debt service and borrow money to do even more roads, and then use that 300 grand to pay debt service,
Okay.
which was clever.
Yeah.
So he could do more roads all at once, and then use that $300 to pay for it. Is what he was doing. Another way to do it. And frankly, I wish I had thought of it. I might have done that too, but I mean, I put the town in better shape, but he took it in a different path, which is, I think, okay. But that's another way. If we ever had enough money to increase our budget, well, frankly, our town budget, we're on $20 because they won't increase the town budget enough to fund the town. So we're not even keeping a level services budget. We're keeping level funded, which is not level services. Our services are going down.
So we're kind of hoping the federal dollar is going to come through.
This town doesn't want to spend the money. It
Yeah.
just doesn't. And that means that as you keep spending the same amount you did last year, the services are gonna go down, 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 down. Just like the buildings haven't been taken care of because nobody wants to spend money. So the buildings deteriorate and all of a sudden you gotta fix all the buildings at once, right?
Right.
That's
And that's where
the
we are
mode
now,
of
yeah.
thought here for years. And somehow we gotta get out of that mode of thought. And people are gonna have to pay, if they want a certain level of service, they're gonna have to pay for them like it or not in their taxes.
Right.
That's a decision that at some point the town's got to grasp as it gets to be a larger town.
Hopefully, if it's timed properly, you float a bond package that keeps the rate level.
Well, that's
the
what this
plan.
is intended
Yeah.
to do. If you do a $2 or $3 million bond package, then we're gonna work with the financial advisor and Becky to try to level that when the debt comes off, we're gonna finance this, because they can structure debt in all kinds of funky ways. You can
Yep,
make it
yep.
interest only for the first 5 years, and then it goes to principal. There's a lot of ways they can structure the debt to make it, is what he was asking me, to make it more level.
Right. People are more likely to approve it if the taxes aren't going up.
Well, that's to say, that's why you want to do it when the debt falls off and the debt goes on, because then it's easier to say to them, you know, if you do all these repairs, it's gonna raise your tax by $75 a month. A lot easier to say it's gonna raise it by $75 a year than $300 a year, right?
Mm,
So that's why it's important to do that leveling from old to new debt.
Okay, so where do we go from here now?
Well, it sounds like what we've got to do, and this is just me thinking out loud, so we can figure out how we want to handle this, but what I don't have with me tonight, I have a version of the 5-year plan, but I don't have the book that had the items that were being requested by year,
Mhm.
right? It sounds like we've got to pull that together, pull out the ones that have already been cared for through previous town meetings,
Mhm.
combine it with what we're looking at here on the facility side, and make that our master list of what we're considering for the FY23 capital plan.
Okay,
All right, that's where I see this
and,
headed.
and
Yeah, you're right.
Joe may have something to contribute, I'm
The
sure.
only comment to that is when you're looking at the 5-year capital plan, because it's a bond package, you really should only be dealing with the larger things. The smaller items, we should worry about, use that with free cash.
Find
This is
ways,
things we
yeah.
couldn't fund with free cash when you make.
But I
those
think
bond packages.
we've got to handle both. So we've got to look at this list, which would be part of the bond package. But I think we've also got to consider the items that would be funded through free cash.
Oh, yeah.
That wouldn't be within the bond package to make a comprehensive recommendation.
If they're more than 10 grand, we deal with them.
When we
Yeah.
get free cash, because what we will do, we'll get a new source of free cash in the fall. So at the fall town meeting, we'll be doing what we did this year. You'll be looking at whatever free cash, I'll say how much we can allocate you guys, and you'll be using it for the list he's talking about.
But what I'm hoping to do is through our normal, that was a little off cycle because we had a influx of free cash.
Yeah.
There were some needs that were needed, that we agreed were needed. And that's why we did things in October versus now,
Yeah.
which is our
Mhm.
normal cycle.
Oh, okay.
Ideally, we'd like to know what our capital plan should be so that when free cash becomes available in November, we're not in that crunch
That's why you build
situation.
it up, yeah, that's
Yeah.
why you do what you say,
Yeah.
yeah, build it up.
So
So you know, when we come up and say, okay, we have $500,000, you already have your list.
we've
out.
got,
Just
yeah,
saying,
it's there.
Okay.
That's why I want to make sure we have everything that's out there that as far as needs go, so that there's no big surprises come October.
Yeah,
Hey, we
well-
got free cash. Can we have?
Well,
this?
that facilities report is a big thing. I mean, that threw a lot of curves at us that we didn't
Well, it gave you-
realize were
for the
there.
first time, it gave you
Some we knew,
numbers.
but not all.
But it gave you numbers for once. You had some
Right.
estimate numbers.
Yeah.
You didn't have to figure out, okay, library wants to do a roof. How much does it cost? Somebody looks at you, I don't know, you gotta have somebody look. This at least gives you some base cost.
Right. For several years, that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah.
Where's a quote?
Nobody knew. Yeah, what's it
Nobody
cost?
knew, right?
And the building directors have no clue. What does Kerry know about how much it costs to do a roof? Yeah, clue. You know, even Joe Buckley, who is our best, Joe's an engineer, he could tell you all about roads. He doesn't know how much it costs to put a heater
Right.
system on a freaking library building. He has no clue.
Yeah, no, you hire a professional and
Yeah.
that's what was done.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now, what we should ask Joe, well, we got Joe and he just probably went to the bathroom, is Joe's got to give us a number for the town parking lots.
Right,
And that team, you need that from Joe to give us a number so we could use that as part of the bond package. And that number should have some float, some excess in it just to cover us. But Joe, we've already talked about it, so he has an idea as to what that number is already. But that's a number you're gonna need, and you need the school number. Those are the
Mhm.
two numbers you don't have yet.
Yep.
These numbers, they're from the facilities management plan. You gotta decide if you think you need to add a little to each of them or what. And you go, Joe can kind of help guide you with that, but
well, some of them are very valid, should be addressed.
I'll give you an example. Look,
Yeah.
we did the Woods building. We asked for 45 grand because it was a study back a couple of years ago. That's what it would cost. But the market in construction right now is like 3 times what
Crazy.
it was back then. So when we have 45 grand, it wasn't nearly enough to do the whole roof. So we're going to do the front half of the roof, right?
Right,
Because when we went out to the contractors and got the bids, the actual bids came in way higher than what we had money for.
yeah.
Because they don't, frankly,
I think we were originally thinking it was gonna be 30.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's because prevailing wages there.
yep,
But because there's so much construction work, these guys that actually use prevailing wage, which are the larger companies, they
mhm,
go, well, that a little roof for 50 grand. I could be working on these projects that are $1 million or 500. Why am I
Right.
gonna do that pilly little roof? If I'm gonna have to do the pilly little roof in Rutland,
Mm.
I'm gonna charge double for what it would cost me because I'm taking away from a more valuable job. That's what's going on.
I was watching them working on it and I was assuming they pulled out because of the winter.
No, they collect because they didn't have any more money.
No more money,
That was
okay.
the most we could do, and that solved the water problem we were having.
Right,
But it didn't solve. The additional estimate for the rest of it's 60 grand. Which Joe's gonna have to talk about because it's gonna be put into the free cash for this annual town meeting.
Mhm.
But 60 grand covers the rest of the roof, but it also covers fixing the chimney and some other exterior things that have to be done
Yeah.
while we're doing the roof. So the total cost of it's about 60 grand that Joe's gonna be discussing with you guys.
Okay, so until Joe comes back, I think we covered the pavement management plan. I mean, we didn't talk about it in depth, but I think the understanding at this point is we have the study. We know we have a lot of road problems.
that's a big
But
study.
based on what you said, we're gonna hold off until you
Well,
know what's going
The
on.
plan is still important, even though you guys we're not gonna buy anything. What the plan does is it helps Joe decide how to spend the chapter 90 money.
Right,
Because Joe gets a certain amount of grant. Now, if let's say a selectman or some member comes and say, I want you to fix my road. Joe looks at the list and say, I'm sorry, your road is not a priority road. I gotta do these priority roads first. So politics don't play a role.
and he's got a basis,
And how, now he's
absolutely.
got a basis for how he spends his money. And he targets the key roads first. And nobody could, he can show a citizen or a selectman or everybody else, this is the thing. I'm sorry, your road doesn't fit. I can't go against it. So it helps him better spend his chapter 90 money.
Which is a huge benefit.
Yeah, it's a big benefit.
All right, so next item, and this is under old business, and Mike, you had alluded to this, and I think we already addressed it, was just a recap of
They had a great question that we with me. So given what the budget can and cannot do, which is limited at best.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
Yeah, there you go, everything. What's the scoop on we'll call it roof repair for lack of other words, so the channel where all the wires come down to the library roof? What's the engineering work? Did they look at that engineering wise and what's the timing on that project?
We have it funded. And we have the engineer queued up to do the design, to put it out to bid to repair those. But we also have to get all of the heating units replaced first.
Okay. And that you already have,
Okay.
the bid came in
Okay.
lower than what we expected.
Yep, I already
And
got
that's
the
done
bid
in the
back
spring,
on
I
the
think.
heating units. That's,
So I didn't know if one of those was dependent upon the other first, or,
I called the engineer and told him I wanted to get the heating units done first. On the off chance they damaged something or something was in the way. So when their engineer went there and did the design for the repairs, I wouldn't have, I didn't want to do the roof repairs, put the heating units in and then have the heating folks damage something or expose something.
yeah, I hear
So
you.
I did it, heating units then.
So we also did some engineering,
That help?
engineering work to make sure that the roof that we do in the senior center is correct.
Yeah.
And well, hopefully we have enough money for that project, but there's we want to make sure we do it right. Because when they did the library, they screwed it all up. So we want to make sure that when we spend the money to fix a roof, it's done right.
It's
okay?
done right.
So that's an issue there.
Thank you.
There's
Before I forget, sorry.
they're kind of,
Not going to, if we've got time, we should do it earlier in April. Right?
I have every night booked.
One
you got the
second.
finance people.
I have everything booked.
Well, I think.
Remember, we put 50 grand aside for landscaping, plumbing, electrical stuff. That
Yes,
was one of it.
yes.
It turned out that the boiler in the senior center blew up and that some of that money was used to replace that boiler. So it's good
Okay.
that we had the money there because it served that
We
problem.
we were trying to get a quote for that a number of years ago because it was going.
So
It went, yeah.
And because we had that money for that, we believe that they line item gave us room to replace the
Right.
boiler. So that was taken care of as well.
So the roof, the engineer just completed the 3D scan
On which roof?
on the community
Senior
center. Yeah, community center.
So the
Because we
question
didn't have
is-
we didn't have any really good drawings, but they did actually a 3D scan of it so they could produce drawings to do the bid.
And that's what we'll use to put out the bid when we put out the bid.
Okay.
What else did we get money for, John? I'm trying to think of what other projects that we did in that.
I'm a public employee. I'm supposed to tell you, we never got enough money.
So,
So,
yeah, but the money we did for the fall town meeting,
yes,
I talked about the community center.
Pool
we
house
talked
sewer?
about The pool house, that's gonna
Pool
be
house.
dug
The
up
pool
and taken
house.
care of in the spring.
Yeah, that was the first
Yeah, are
thing.
you doing it in winter?
we are, but we're waiting till March.
Okay,
You
so,
had to replace and rebuild some
Right
pumps.
Yeah, I had to
Oh,
replace
okay.
the
I
pump
just
came
never
today.
remember which ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
they
it
were.
failed before we got the new one.
Oh,
So
with
we
the
had
old
to
one?
pay to rebuild it.
Yeah.
But
Library
we have a
roof,
spare,
town
which is
building,
good.
all the fire alarms. I don't know.
Timing. Huh?
Long, anything mechanical is a long lead time. The
The many repairs
I
is the
wanna
ones we
say
did with the
new
boiler.
heater, air conditioning
So
units.
really,
at
the only
the
other one is
Library.
I think
are
we
the
10
fire
thousand
alarms. I don't know where
Yeah,
they are with the
fire
fire alarms.
Whereas
Yeah.
a year ago, you probably get them off the shelf.
No kidding. Yeah.
The only one I don't
And
know,
twice the cost too. Huh?
The cost wasn't too bad. Labor's high, but the new pump for the sewer miles from the pump station was 26-week lead time.
Really?
the only one I don't know about is the fire alarms.
Oh, yeah.
Seth's project, I just don't know where Seth is with those fire alarms. to
Yeah,
do 'em, But
it's,
that's the only one I don't know about. But that's.
I think 3G got shut off a couple days ago, so hopefully they're done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the status is. What happened with that. Do you know anything about that? I don't
I
know.
know he had it done.
It's already done?
It's already done.
The
Yeah.
town buildings are done? Okay.
Okay. All right, so that covers anything else under old business aside from that?
So we took care of the heaters at the
Library told them that, yeah.
we've got an engineer ready to do the design and put the roof repairs out for bid.
For the senior center, community
No,
center.
for the
Oh, for the library still? Okay.
after the roof units are complete.
Okay, so that's already in works. It's just,
Right.
you gotta wait till after
We
the
have the
heaters are
engineer,
put.
an engineer under contract to do plans and specs for the roof replacement at the community center.
Yep.
That work started.
Yeah.
That was $15,000, but I think in the end we'll be better served.
Yep.
Um,
The boiler for that 50 grand of tech.
We used the
fuels.
boiler to do repairs to the front of this building where people, there was a water problem. We addressed that and we did the boiler.
Okay.
Um,
The alarms we talked about.
Alarms.
I think that's it, Joe.
Yep, that covers them.
That covers
Sewer
it.
work is pending.
So
We'll get to that in
Joe,
March.
they're gonna need as quickly as you can. And I know you already kind of worked on it to some degree, is the amount of square footage you talked about for all the parking lots that we have to do for the town buildings. And then you said there was some dollar amount that goes to the square footage that you can give them an estimate for?
Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my
No,
head.
but can you get that for them and
Yeah.
email it to Harry or the board? Because that number they need along with, I'm asking Daryl and the business manager of the school system to give us a number of the parking lots for the schools. That's what they need for part of the bond package.
Okay,
Make sense?
we're gonna use new flyover data for GIS to do the takeoffs for the square footage. For the parking lot. And then we'll do 3 inches. Remove and replace.
Yeah,
And that's what we use for.
You can give this to Harry or anybody else. that's got
Yep.
copies.
sounds reasonable to me too.
And again, you guys gotta decide if you have any interest in doing like the elevator at the town hall or any of that stuff. I don't know. That's,
I would think that has to be done though.
well, if you want to use the top and bottom floors.
Yeah,
you
the
have to.
American Disabilities Act. Yeah, I mean,
Well, I guess the question, it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
But if you have access to that top floor, then you're gonna start talking about renovating the top floor, because right
Well,
now it's kind of
it's already-
useless.
But
Okay.
but for instance, there's no bathroom on that mid-level
Mhm.
floor.
Yeah.
The bathroom's on the upper floor, so handicap access. That's what you're supposed to be able to
Oh,
do
I know,
there.
but then I also get into the issue about
You need to redo it all.
the
yeah.
handicapped access to the bathroom itself. I mean, if
Yeah,
you
it's
get to the
all over.
bathroom, I mean, you still can't get into it if you're in a
You're
wheelchair.
absolutely right. That's why I say there's a lot of issues there.
So
That's
that's
why I
why I'm a
was like,
little
eh.
hesitant to agree to saying
the
that, yeah,
elevator.
the elevator is a great idea, but what's it really buying us?
Yeah.
Because we still can't use the third floor. A handicapped person still can't use
Yeah.
the bathroom. So what are we getting by the elevator?
It's kind of why I said you could think about it, but I wasn't very supportive of buying the elevator anyway for that, for those reasons and
Mhm.
others. I just don't think, I think that should be part of an overhaul of the whole building,
Mhm.
not just to do the elevator.
which is a whole nother amount of money.
Right.
Okay. I think we talked about the review of the long-term debt, which was under new business. We looked at that. We talked about the philosophy that's being used there.
Yep.
As far
The
as.
sooner
the-
you
the
get
bond
her a
package.
total number.
Yep.
Of what you think that bonding package is, then Becky can work with you to tell you how to structure that debt.
Okay, also under new business, we had the pavement I think we talked a little bit about that too. We all have seen the report. Is there any questions or anything while Joe is here about the paving
No,
report that Stan?
I looked at it
put
pretty
out?
thoroughly.
That was Stantec. They did a good job.
Yeah,
And they actually walked or drove everything.
Mhm.
They didn't do it like, it wasn't done like with a satellite. It was all done. They actually came.
yeah, well, they're a good company. I've dealt with them before.
Both of those reports were done through community compact grants. I got grants for both of those, so they were free to us.
And we've got some money left in the grant, so we're gonna try and also do a similar analysis of sidewalks
Oh, okay.
Where we have them.
all over the place. We just don't know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
some
more
are
than
getting
you
done,
think.
some are getting done this year. That package is getting done this
That's
year, right?
That's a complete streets job.
Yeah.
So guys, I'm gonna suggest you guys can do what you want. You might want to have a special meeting to talk about these bond packages because we need to act quickly on putting together a package.
That's one of the things I was gonna do was set up our next meeting because we need to do that in addition to just our overall review, once we have everything in front of us, in addition to the bond package.
This is my
Right.
only copy, hard copy of the facilities management, but would it make it easier if you use this for your discussions? And I know you all have it electronically, but it might be handy for you to use this as you.
As long as I can get back to you.
You gotta
I
give
wanna
it back
keep
to me.
that.
Yeah, no, give it back to me because it's the only one I got, but this will help you
Okay.
go
But
through
it
it. and
is,
you guys
it
can
is
work on it.
online. You did send it out.
I sent it
Yeah, we have it.
electronically to all of you guys.
It's in a
so
Yeah.
you
PDF.
have
I
it
remem-
somewhere.
I remember seeing it. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's the hard copy of it. So,
yeah.
I mean, I went through it. I spent a day kind of looking on stuff. You may want to go through and verify and see if there's something I missed or whatever, but that's the whole package.
Hmm.
Joe, did I give you, here's the sheet, Joe, that I put together for them. These are the things that I think that they should consider. I put your salt shed in there and your HVAC system, which are small dollars, maybe that could be done on free cash, but I did include it in case they wanted to consider it.
All right, so we need to set a meeting, but before we have that meeting, each of us should look through the bond, the facilities plan, compare that to what Ron has provided us to make sure we're pretty much in sync with what the priority list is. All right. And then what I'll do is that next time we meet, I'll bring in the other items, the things that wouldn't be part of the bond package that are part of our overall 5-year capital plan that we haven't already purchased.
Okay,
And
and
we can review
And
those.
guys, just so you know, because I wasn't planning on updating that 5-year capital plan. Now that you have that book, department heads, you should be working with department heads to keep that book up to speed and let them, and every year they should be asking for what they want in the year 2026 or whatever it is, the last year.
Right.
But things that they didn't get in the first year have to be moved somewhere else.
So
in
that
those
they
5
didn't
years.
anticipate.
Yeah, what we didn't fund in the first year that you asked for,
Mm.
that's still good. That can't disappear. We have to move that somewhere else into the 5-year capital plan. Okay. So you should be asking those department heads where they want to move it if it didn't get funded, what year they want to move it to.
Yeah, we'll have to meet with people. Sure, Joe's always one to talk.
And if you don't get information from my department, you let me know. And I'll make sure I get the information for you. Okay.
What do you need?
No, it's just maintaining the 5-year capital.
Well, what I-
plan.
what
People
I
like
made-
you and Seth and everything, we get regular reports on that.
What I may do, Ron, is reach out to you, put together a memo
Mm.
to that effect.
Uh-huh.
And if we could send it out to the department heads. to
Happy
review,
to. Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Reminding them to.
Reminding them to
Update it.
review the 5-year plan and to do just what you said.
I did, truthfully, I did it about 2 months ago, but I haven't seen anything from them. So we should reinforce that by
Okay.
doing it again. So I agree.
All right, what else we got here?
Comment.
What's that?
Any major purchases that done through ARPA that aren't,
We were talking about ARPA
that
and
that aren't bond funded, it's still a capital. improvement.
it's still in capital improvement. So the question is, because they're ARPA funds, it's different, just so you guys understand, the ARPA money, the federal law, specific law says we don't have to go to the finance committee for that, or I don't even think we have to go to the capital improvement committee because it's all state and federal funds. So they kind of serve as it doesn't have to go to town meeting, or anything else, because they serve, the state government, federal government serves as your finance committee because they're reviewing it. So those things aren't coming before you. I told you the ones that we used, ARPA funds already, and Joe's considering other items. So if we decide to do, for instance, the well for a new water supply, that might be on your capital plan somewhere. If Joe does that with ARPA funds, then you're gonna just take that off of your plan. Right? And
Yeah.
again, that's mostly, we're talking about sewer water projects is really what we're mostly talking about.
We just- That is a $500,000 on Palmagussit and water work alone. That was all funded with ARPA money.
Yep.
But it's a capital improvement for the town, so you should be aware of it.
I watched it every day when I came and went.
That one went well.
So I think, Joe, what's the next one you were talking about? Is it the well? What was the next one you were thinking about? Because you said you got another project coming forward.
Yeah.
For ARPA funding, what was that one?
Backup source for the water.
That's the well issue, right? And then again, we're looking at ARPA funds to fund the sewer line from this.
Cherry picks on. That's what that word is gonna go. That's not.
And we are looking for ARPA funds again to connect the sewer line from this community center to the
To
main
the
line.
Community center, right?
That's another thing.
Yeah,
we're talking
you
about
had
using
mentioned
ARPA
that
funds.
earlier. Yeah.
Ron, I haven't seen anything come through, and I don't know if Harry can still hear us or not, but about the annual.
Still here,
report.
Joe.
Okay, Harry, we haven't seen anything about the annual report, have we, or have we?
No, we haven't, not yet.
Are they typically due this time? I thought they were.
But actually, I think, do they come out? Did they come out the annual time? They came out last year at the annual time, right?
No, the printed book comes out then, but I'm talking about when we have to submit our reports to be included in the book.
Well, the Anita and Beth kind of took care of that last year. I'll check with them on
Okay.
Monday and find out what the status of that is, because I don't think they've started yet, is the answer.
Okay,
Because they haven't talked to me about it.
Joe,
Have they asked for a request from them? So they have started them.
okay.
Joe,
Yes, Harry.
we usually submit that in March. We're getting it ready now supposedly for submission in March.
Okay, so,
That's usually because of our timeline of doing things over the last 13 years. That's just the way it's worked out.
Yeah, I mean, the annual report we'll be submitting now will be actually for fiscal year 21. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
yeah, I'll check with her on Monday, but Peter says he's already saw that they're requesting those
We
reports. So
didn't have a
they
whole lot
must
of
have
money
started. on
spent
it.
in 21.
Yeah. Other than writing it for myself and the select board, I don't put together that book. They put it together.
Yeah.
Thank God.
All right. I think the only other thing we want to try to do is probably establish the next few meetings
Yeah.
before we leave tonight, so we can all be on the same page.
Just one thing, Joe, the Woods House wood, the 60 grand we talked about today for the Woods House roof and the stuff. That, because we're gonna use free cash for it, they have to approve that. So if you could just write up something and send it to them about that project so that they can vote to approve it for free cash. And if we have the free cash, because we still gotta figure out if we have free cash after snow and ice and everything. But that's one of the things we're gonna do. So just send them some kind of memo about that, and that's something you'd consider voting for
And-
for remaining free.
Yeah,
cash.
so if you can have
And
that,
some sort of estimate for the.
I'll do the best I can.
yeah,
Um,
so we have that when we're reviewing everything at our next meeting.
The,
so that'll be
It's
part of
almost
our
the same email
package.
you sent me today, Joe.
Okay,
Just redo it and send it to them, that's all.
when we got up on the roof to do the front half where it was leaking, it became evident that all three chimneys need significant repair. And those should be done in advance of any roof work. In addition, anybody who looks at that facilities report, the report identified structural failures in the foundation and along the front porch. The front porch was bad enough that when the contractor worked on the front half of the roof, they had to brace up the column because, again, this concrete and foundation work that needs to be done in advance of the pending roof work.
The total estimate that.
$60K.
you gave me was 60,000, just saying. That takes care of the roof and the chimney work and stuff.
Oh, I think I saw an email about that today too.
I wrote that.
Yeah,
He
okay.
wrote the- Yeah, he copied,
Yeah,
at least.
I'm gonna be
I
frank,
haven't
I'll be
read
frank
it
with you,
in
the
depth,
chimney is
but-
a best guess.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't have an estimate on that. And oftentimes you're not gonna know till you get that apart.
Okay. All right, what do schedules look like for you guys? March is pretty good. Pretty flexible.
Yep,
If you would just copy me on it, so if I can come, I'd like to come if I can.
Yep, absolutely.
yeah, I've got nothing scheduled on Thursdays in March.
Okay. Do we want to put in the 10th,
I was gonna say 2 weeks from today. That
10th and
sounds-
17th?
Yep,
That's St. Patrick's Day. Does anyone have an issue with
I
that?
would, I'd be good with the 10th.
You'd be good with the 10th?
Yep.
Are you looking to try to get in 2 in March?
Yeah,
How about the 10th and the 24th,
I'm away the 24th, but I
31st?
mean, if
Yeah.
the rest of you are here,
Yeah. Um,
I could do the,
I could do St. Patrick's Day. I mean, if I really need a beer, I'll have afterwards.
well, we can go afterwards. How's that? Dan, are you okay on the 17th?
Yeah.
Harry,
Good night.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's fine.
anytime you guys have questions, don't be afraid to stop in.
Okay,
Okay.
When you're
Ron,
ready
thanks.
with that, permits, just.
probably tomorrow I'll send you something, yeah.
Harry,
Harry,
be safe.
Joe, at this point, I'd say, okay.
Last of all those stuff you heard today about that?
We got-
you're okay on the 10th and the 17th, Harry?
Yeah, at this point, I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm hoping.
2 weeks,
it'll
2 weeks
better.
in a row you want to do?
2 weeks in a row. Yeah, just
I
because
think
I
we
don't
have
know
to.
that we want to do a lot of this beyond March because we're already a little bit behind.
All right.
So if we can knock it out in March, I think next time we'll have in front of us everything we've got.
Are we going to meet here or at the Wood Studio?
I'm gonna try to do it here again because I
Okay.
think it's just generally speaking easier to get in. I think it's easier for these guys in filming. So we'll shoot for here if it's available.
Okay, the 10th and the 17th.
All right, any other business before we close? Harry, is there anything that you wanted to add? Did we cover everything that would have been on your list?
Joe, I think you guys did a great job. The only question and you pretty much covered it, is, once we get this bond package done, next year, are we gonna be looking at another 2 or 3 million? Because, our town, it's a hard sell, so that was the only concern I had for Ron,
Yeah, so I think the answer to that could be yes. I mean, you could spend as much money as people would let you spend. I think the need is there across the board. What I was gonna do, Harry, because I'm still not clear, I was gonna reach out to Becky. And I know you can look at structuring debt certain ways so that it's level based on when the old debt is dropping off, but I'd like to get a pretty good sense from her of, we talked about 2 to 3 million tonight, but what is that real number of total debt that's falling off over a 20-year period?
right?
And that way, that might give us a starting point of backing into a number that would keep us pretty low from a.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what do we anticipate that looking like in the coming years too?
Well, we have that. She did give us that.
Yeah.
But in terms of if there were to be a proposal for another bond package,
Yep.
like what kind of timeline would we be looking at before that was reasonable again?
So based on what, and I'm just looking at this really quickly, but the initial period when excluded debt is falling off, it starts to fall off in 2023. That's when the Naquan renovations falls off. So the last year is FY 2022. And then the next time something falls off appears to be in fiscal year 2025. That's when the Rutland Heights property falls off. That's when the ambulance, which is also excluded, falls off. And then after that, the last debt excluded debt that we have, that's a big chunk of change, is in 2026 is the last year for the elementary school construction. That's that 348 annual payment. So that's a big one.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Dan, after that, in 2026, the next big chunk of debt that falls off from the general fund isn't until 2036. So there's a big gap. And that's not even excluded. That's tax-based, non-excluded debt.
1 year at a time.
So I see what they're saying. Now is the time to look at it because the next 3 years is when excluded debt falls off. And if you want to keep it the tax rate level, now's the opportunity to do that.
Right. My concern, Joe, when I ask that question is, we are absorbing a tremendous amount of rate increase in water and sewer. And I don't see, and my concern is for the average citizen of this town, I don't see their income going up corresponding to what we're asking them to pay. So this bond package is going to be, another bite at the apple. And then if we have to come back in another 2 or 3 million, another bite. And we're still not solving the problem of sewer and water because that really isn't in the general fund. So I see all this coming, and that was my concern, Joe, that I asked you that, you know?
Right.
Well, we can talk about that a little more. Maybe we'll have some more information in a couple of weeks.
I mean, the other thing is, you know, as we go through and each of us kind of looks through the
Reading material.
leisure reading here.
At least you read it, yeah.
You know, though, if we can get the number from Becky of what the debt is falling off, but you're not married to that number. I mean,
Right.
of course, the more you add to a bond, the tougher the sell is.
The tougher the sell.
Especially if you're
Right.
talking about
Right.
A rate increase.
tax rate increase over and above just the level, you know, trying to offset what's falling off. But
Right.
that's a conversation. We
All
can
right.
have if there's something that
Well, we've
stands
got
out.
some of the numbers. We need some more from Joe, and also that small amount that'll come out of free cash.
Yeah.
To finish off that building roof.
Okay.
Um,
All right, so sounds like we got a game plan for our next meeting. So with that, unless there's anything else, take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn and
Second.
All
second,
right, Mike?
approved.
Paul,
Yep.
Dan?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
Now that that's unanimous. We're adjourned. Thank you.
All right, guys, I want to thank everybody. You